this is Jamie Magridge. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I want to show you how I made this card. And let's get started. For inks, I'm using Mossy Meadow Cherry Cobbler. I have a water brush and a bone folder. I have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of Whisper White, which I've run through the Dainty Diamonds embossing folder. I have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of, this is, what did I use? I don't even remember, Smoky Slate. And I just used that. I'm not sure if you can tell, but it just gives it a little bit more of a shadow to this under here, so you can actually see that it's inlaid. Okay, then I have my card base, and this one is 5.5 by 11, scored and folded at 4 1/4. I have a piece of watercolor paper, and I have stitched nested labels, the poinsettia dies, and the Poinsettia Petals stamp set. These are the dies that I'm going to be using. I'll set this aside. I'm going to bring in my watercolor paper. Let's set this aside as well so I don't soil it. And start with the cherry cobbler. I need to stamp one of each size of the poinsettias in the cherry cobbler, but I want to do one at a time because I'm going to actually watercolor them. So I'm going to ink up my stamp. This so you can actually see what I'm doing. And I'm going to stamp it. The watercolor paper is very nice because it lets the ink move. I'm going to come in with my water brush, and I like to squirt a little bit onto my, I'm going to use my workstation, but you can put anywhere. Okay, then I'm just going to use the ink that is on here. You don't want too much water because you don't want it to run out of the lines. Basically, I'm just using this water brush to pull the ink that I just put on the paper out. And I'm just going to paint in each one of these petals. Just by the natural movement of the ink, you're going to get light and dark areas. Just you want a little bit more water, just pick it a little bit up off your workspace, or you can use a paper plate or a tile or something like that. I'm not going to worry too much about the center because it's all going to get covered up anyways. Again, don't be afraid to move your paper to the position where you can more easily move your brush so you have better control. And you'll notice I'm not getting every single space. There's some white space there. That's fine. Okay, if you get a little too much water, wipe your brush off on a paper towel or a rag. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that with the other two sizes. I'll come in with the medium. Go ahead and do the same thing. This brush all of a sudden is letting quite a bit of water pour out. And this is quite a fine tip. You could use just a paintbrush and water. That works too. Stampin' Up! Has some new water brushes. I haven't tried them yet. Alright, almost done with this one. Sorry, get quiet when I paint. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the smallest one off camera, and then I'll come back when it's time to do the leaves. Okay, so that's all my 3 flowers. Now I'm going to come in with the mossy meadow and the leaves. I'm going to do one large one. And I'm going to paint it the same way. And to clean out your brush, you're just going to squeeze it onto and wipe it off until it runs clear. But it's okay if you get a little bit of red into your green leaves. That's kind of what poinsettia leaves do anyway. I'm going to do the same thing with the green. I'm just stamping it, using the water brush to pull that color around. Now with this mossy meadow, I did notice you want to try not to get too much water. If you do, it gets this look where it's kind of cloudy. This is with less water. It had a big pool on it. Just if you like that look, then that's fine. But just a FYI, because that's one of the things I noticed. Okay, now I'm going to do 2 of these little leaves. I'm just going to do them. Go ahead and paint these in. I'm just picking up the water rather than squeezing my brush because I have a little bit better control over how much water I get then. Okay, now that I've got them painted, I'm going to let them dry, and then I need to cut them out with the coordinating dies. And I will be right back. Let this dry a minute. Okay, these are pretty much dry now. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in the coordinating dies. I'm going to line them up That's the hardest part. Line the dies up and run them through my die cut machine. Okay, so I'm going to do that.
And I'll be back when they're all cut out.
Okay, I've got those all cut out. So now I'm going to come in with my bone folder. Let's see, I'd really rather use this one. And I'm going to curl the tips. So I'm going to hold it here at the base and I'm going to curl the tips. This watercolor paper curls really nice and it doesn't crinkle. And at the base of each petal, just push it up.
I love the fact that you can see how the different colors, and it's just one ink.
It's really nice. I'll do the same thing for the poinsettias. Curl them, and then curl them the other way. Curl them the other way. Gives just a little bit of dimension. Okay, now I'm going to glue these together. I'm going to use my wet glue. Put a little bit in the center. Not very much. Then I'm going to stagger the petals. A little in the center. Oops. Try that again. Hold it together for a minute. Okay, now for this one, I'm going to actually glue these petals to the poinsettia. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue here on the tip. And I'm going to glue one petal here. Put another one right here. This one's going like behind the poinsettia, you see? I mean behind the other petal. And then this one's going to go on the other side to balance it out. A little bit over here. Let's see, I'm just sticking it on the back there. Okay. Now I'm going to, oops, that decided not to stay stuck. Hold it for a second longer. I'm going to bring in a different glue. This is Gina K Connect glue. It's just a clear drying very good adhesive glue. Another one, nice one would be art glitter glue. That's another great one. But this has a nice tip that I have control over. So I'm going to fill this center here with this white glue. Just a little swirl of white glue. It's not tons, see? But I'm going to bring in seed beads. You can use prills, you can use a big gem. I'm just going to use some of my seed beads. And I probably have enough in the bag without opening the... They go everywhere but where I want them. I'm just going to fill up the center of this with seed beads. I still have more than I need. Okay, just fill them in, stick them in that glue. Make sure they're pushed down into the glue so they stay. Okay, very good. Okay, I'm going to set this aside to dry for a minute. And I'm going to bring in the card. This piece here that I've already run through that embossing folder, the Dainty Diamonds. I don't know if you can see the texture on it. And I'm going to bring in this die. It's the largest one of the stitched nested labels. And I'm going to center that up on the front of this piece. And then I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. So I'm going to center it up. And I will be right back when that's cut out. Okay, that's cut out. We're going to need both pieces. Now this piece here, we're going to put dimensionals all across the back of it. We want a good amount because we want to make sure it stays popped up, the frame part of it. So I'm putting quite a few dimensionals on it. Probably more than you really need, but I don't like when it sags in parts. Excuse me. One more. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus, not for stamping, but it has this nice angle here, or corner, and it's going to help me to line this up. So I'm going to put my gray piece in the corner. Get up here where you can see the gray piece directly in the corner. I'm going to take off all these backs. Okay, so I'm going to line up the gray piece in the corner, and without pushing it down, I'm going to line up this piece in the corner. And then I can slowly set it down onto the gray piece. That way I get it lined up because they're the same size. Okay, and then I have the perfect edge. Alright, now I'm going to bring in one more dimensional for the center of my flower. Take the back off. Actually, I think I got more than that on there. Yeah, I got a few more. Then I strategically put them so that they help hold those leaves on. One more here. Take those backs off. I'm going to bring in this piece. I'm going to center this up on this piece how I want it. I want it a little bit cattywampus. Just looks better to my eyes. Stick it all down. Okay. Now I'm going to put glue on the back of this. Maybe use my wet glue. Oops. Too much glue there, spread it around. Okay, then I'm going to set this into this opening. Pull up these leaves so they're not underneath. Go around with my bone folder, make sure it's all tucked in on the edges. I want all these edges tucked down, but I don't want it sticking the side down. I want the side to stay up. Okay, awesome. Now I can adhere this to the front of my card. Now this is a top folding card. I can do the same thing, bring in my Misty to line it up, but I'm just going to line it up.
There we go. There's our card. You can use it for Christmas, birthday, whatever you'd like.
Make sure this is pulled out. There we go. Here's the card we just made together.
Here's the one I did previously. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.